Hi, I'm Leyla Acaroglu, and I'm very excited to be here with you today, digitally presenting ideas about how we can redesign the economy so that it's more sustainable, circular, and regenerative. I'm a designer and sociologist, and I'm deeply passionate about finding ways to redesign the products and services that fill our lives so that they're more sustainable. I was named Champion of the Earth in 2016 by the United Nations for my work in advancing science and innovation for sustainability. I design tools that help people think differently about how they live and work in the world, and I also am very, very passionate about designing and redesigning the products and services in the world. So I have a design agency called Disrupt Design, and we take commissions to create interventions that challenge the way we see the world. So I've designed the circular classroom for the Finnish education system, which helps young people learn about creativity, circularity, and sustainability. I also designed the Anatomy of Action for the United Nations. It was a collaboration around sustainable living and lifestyles. And in this, we came up with this idea of the anatomy of action. It's your hand. We all take actions every day with them, and we have the potential to make choices that have a better impact on the planet. So the food we eat, the stuff we buy, the way we move around our cities, the things we spend our money on, and how we have fun, these are all areas that have really quite big impacts on the world around us. And we looked at the scientific data from the last 5 years and found that there are a number of actions that individuals can take that really do bring about more sustainable outcomes. So protein swapping, or reducing food waste, or perhaps even divesting from banks or energy providers that are more environmentally damaging. There are small and big actions that we can take, and if more of us do it, then the more social proof we will have that sustainability is a possibility. So I also run something called the Unschool of Disruptive Design. It's an experimental knowledge lab for adults, and we used to run programs all over the world, but most recently we've been focusing on our online school. We have thousands of students who are professionals interested in career changing and learning how to use systems thinking, sustainability sciences, and design and creativity to help redesign the world so it works better. And that's really what I think is so important, is to love problems. The problems we face are big and messy, be it climate change or ocean plastic waste or global deforestation, the sixth great extinction. These are huge issues. And I think that it's very easy to kind of deflect responsibility and imagine somebody else will solve them. But at the end of the day, it's going to take all of us collaborating, learning to respect the planet, and figuring out how to design a better future, and taking action today if we're going to really address these issues. See, this is the thing. We all design the world. The actions we take have impacts, and I believe that we're all citizen designers of a better future. And this planet we share, the only known life-sustaining planet in the entire universe, has limits, and we're learning about those limits through scientific data about ecosystem destruction, and that's really what sustainability is here to try and address. It's looking at the social, economic, and environmental impacts of our actions and harmonizing them, not focusing on one more than the other, realizing we have to have equitable businesses, we must respect the natural world through our actions, reduce waste, but to the point where we are actually designing regenerative systems. And that is what the circular economy is really proposing, that we can figure out how to transform the way we design everyday products and services so that they are no longer linear. So the linear economies, the one we live in, is based on going to nature and extracting raw materials, processing them into usable goods, and then ultimately, once they've been used, discarding them either in landfill, an open dump, an incineration, dumping them in the ocean. Like, basically, we live on one planet, and these materials and resources have to go somewhere. So if we want to look at addressing these end-of-life impacts, such as waste, we need to redesign the products right from the start. It's so important, whether they're modular and can be taken apart easily, if the materials can actually be recaptured. These are all important considerations, because every single thing that we create, every material thing in the world has come from nature at some point. And this is the thing. Everything has to return. We live on a closed planet, so it needs to be able to absorb all of these pollutants we create. Every action that we take in the economy has impacts. We are producing all sorts of pollutants back into the natural world. And that is the problem, because the natural world has to then try and absorb and process, whether it be air pollution or plastic waste. And so our job as the humans kind of creating this mess is to figure out how to redesign things so that what we do put back into nature is benign, it can be absorbed and remetabolized in a sustainable way, but that we're also figuring out how to change the cycles of production. And this is really what we're aiming for. Sustainability is a pathway to regeneration, and the circular economy is really about reconfiguring our economic activity, meeting human needs in ways that replicates and respects nature, where there is no waste. And that is what we are aiming to do, designing waste out of the system. And not just physical waste, but air pollution is a waste. Carbon emissions are a waste. So that's our goal here. And one thing that's important to understand is that, we live on a single planet, and there are the actions that we take have impacts, and the ecological footprint methodology is a great way to understand how individual impacts are affecting the planet. But collectively, we know that around about the 1980s, we started to extract and process resources at a faster rate than the Earth could replenish them, which means that we are eating into the future capital. So our kids are going to have less access to valuable materials than we did because of this fact. And so we're trying to really rectify that by using resources in a sustainable and regenerative way. And we know we face lots of problems, whether it be, they're all different depending on where you are, but the global ones that are affecting us are, of course, climate change, the climate crisis, the social inequity that comes with the current economy, and ecosystem destruction. The Sustainable Development Goals have been laid a pathway for us to figure out how we can get to a more sustainable future. But it's going to take everybody in society, whether it be governments, businesses, or individuals, working together to shift the way we value things in the economy. And that's what the circular economy is really trying to do, change the way we value things to help address the climate crisis. Because this issue that we face, climate change, it's embedded in everything we do. So everything we buy, this video call that I'm making with you is drawing on server energy, which is creating heat, which is causing, increasing the use of air conditioning and energy. We live in an interconnected world, and all of our actions individually, all these little dots, they add up, and those adding up impacts create the problems we're trying to address. But there are so many opportunities to reconfigure our economy, and design is one of the best solutions. And I don't mean you have to be a designer, but if you're in business, if you are also somebody who interacts with the world, you are ultimately making choices, and that's what design is all about. And so the circular economy wants to figure out how to recapture and reprocess materials before they end up back in the natural world. Specifically, the technical materials, the ones that we've created, that we've transformed from a natural state. So materials like a paper cup that's actually paper lined with plastic, that means that it's very difficult for that product to be recycled. Or really technical products like a cell phone or a computer that have 50 or more materials embedded and kind of all mushed together. In order to process that effectively at the end of life, the product needs to be designed and then to be fitted within a fully circular system. And that's the thing about some of the products we already have, they're biological, and we can easily metabolize them in, say, a biodigester or in composting. We should definitely be reducing biological materials getting to landfill or incineration, because we need to rebuild our soils and we need to make sure that we can grow food into the future. So this is one of the core concepts. Now, I recently did a report for a partner here in the UK around what the future of workplace sustainability is. And in that report, I uncovered these mega trends that are happening at the moment. And we know that the climate change adaptation process, or that there's a zero waste movement, as well as the circular economy. But all of these are working together, especially risk mitigation. Large companies, especially financial institutions, are working to make sure that climate change, ecosystem destruction, that these are risks that are managed. And so there's actually a huge amount of movement towards sustainability and circularity happening in a variety of different industries. If you're interested, I have this report. You can grab it from my website, disruptdesign.co. It's free, and it basically has all of the information about where we're going, what the next 10 years will be. But I wanted to highlight, I created, for those of you listening who are in business or who work for a company who is interested in making a transformation, I designed a diagnostic toolkit to help you assess where you're at on a sustainability journey and then establish where you need to go. Because there are so many different impact areas that an organization has, and it's important, especially with the goals set out by the Paris Agreement, that we are making actions around our energy and around our emissions in the supply chain. So another tool that I created to help people redesign products and services is called the disruptive design method. It's really a scaffolding. Like I say, if a building is to be created, you need to put up scaffolding on the outside as like a skeleton to protect the building as it's going up, to give it support. That's what this method is. It helps anyone, designers or not, explore a problem, understand the systems, and then create solutions. And this process of mining to learn about what it is that is reinforcing a problem, and then looking at the systems through the landscaping, and then creating and designing interventions with the building. Again, I have a lot of resources online if this is something that you're interested in exploring more, because what I've learned over the years of working in this space is that we often only see the most obvious part of the problem. And that means that we avoid, unintentionally a lot of the time, all of the different social structures and conditions that reinforce the problem to begin with. So a lot of the change needs to come within ourselves, not only how we see the world, how we think about it, but what we can contribute. So I call this positive self-disruption, figuring out how to think in systems, learning to overcome biases, and conquering the fear that some of these big problems present us with. So systems thinking is a fantastic tool for this, learning how to see the relationships between things, understanding that we live in a complex world full of interconnected, interdependent systems. We are part of them. And once we understand things from a systems mindset, we can start to identify what area we can intervene in so that we can redesign the way the system works. And so there are many tools that you can adopt in employing systems thinking, but the key idea is that you explore relationships before the obvious parts of the system. And we do this because a lot of the problems that we're trying to solve today were the great idea of somebody in the not too distant past. And so circular design is really about being able to see the systems, the way the product fits within that system or the service, what functionality it's offering, how it will perform or behave once it exists in the world, and what end-of-life options there are. Now, there are a number of strategies, both business and design, that can be employed. I don't have time to go through all of them, but again, I have lots of free resources online, unschools.co, or if you just Google my name, you'll find them. I've written extensively about this. My goal today was to share with you some of the strategies about designing for the circular economy that I think are really useful to know. So we have this hierarchy of design going from basically just kind of figuring out how to make it more recyclable through to redesigning the product or service so that it completely eliminates waste. So first of all, we have to figure out how to repair things and design products so that they can be repaired. We need to design remanufacturing systems that are really efficient, that are easy for products to be recaptured in, and that the valuable parts can be extracted and reprocessed. There is a huge importance of the resale market, so companies encouraging their customers to resell products, especially because they've created them to last longer and be more durable. We need to also develop sharing platforms where individuals are able to share products and resources that they don't necessarily need a lot of, like a drill, for example. They're only used for a few minutes on average. Looking at waste as a resource like nature does, so that it can be absorbed back into a system, intentionally designed that way, and creating longer life products. It's a very hard pill for businesses to swallow, imagining that they need to actually move away from the disposability mindset and instead create products that really advance circularity. And that means that they need to be durable and last longer. They need to be able to be last the kind of human failure rate where they get dropped or kicked or whatever else. And we need to figure out how to ensure that products that do break, that don't fit within a reuse model, are easily recovered and that they are reprocessed so that the value of the materials that have been extracted from nature are really maximized. And last but not least, one of the core concepts of the circular economy is transforming our linear and single-use products to be what we call a circular model, a product service system, a product that is not only a service, but it is delivered as a whole system to the end user and customer. And I know there's a lot here, but the key thing is that we need to shift our culture. Not only do we need to change the way we see the world, value nature, understand that we are part of this big, beautiful planet, but also how our culture values products and services that last longer, that are more durable, and that are not single-use and disposable. Before I finish up, I wanted to just share a few other pieces of important, useful information about sustainability in business and decision making. I've been doing a lot of work around this recently, developing a whole online learning system, because after 20 years of working in this space, I realized that companies that want to make change might not necessarily have the immediate tools to know how to do that. So I've broken down these 3 pathways that are really important for any business of any size to think about. The operational impact. So that is your energy, waste, water, infrastructure. So the office you might operate in, or if you are a shop, for example, all of the physical assets that enable you to operate, as well as what you buy, whether it be coffee or food. And of course, the travel, the way people get to your place of work. Now, there are many actions you can take to assess the current environmental impact through environmental auditing. You can just take your electricity bills and look to see how much you spend and what type of energy you have. And then once you've done the assessment, then make decisions on how to make change. It's really important. A pathway of transformation requires understanding the status quo and then working to change it, mining the problem, looking at the system, and then of course designing a positive solution. So then of course we have the product level. That's anything that you create as part of your business. And here it's really important to understand the supply chain. Supply chains are basically where a lot of the unsustainability occurs in the production of products. So there are lots of tools in assessing your supply chain, working with your providers and service contractors in order to ensure that there is sustainability built throughout the life of the product. And then there's a tool called life cycle thinking that's really about understanding the current linear economy and looking at ways where your product or your material interacts already with the natural world in a positive or negative way. So these tools can be used. You can map the supply chain and look for areas to make change. And then the last arena for making positive impact from a business level is experiences. What does your customer, your stakeholders, what do they understand about what you're doing and why you're doing it? And how can you curate an experience and direct them through a space, through your store, through your website, through whatever it is that you do, so that they actually really understand that sustainability, that your goals, it's not some wishy-washy thing, that it really is important and that it's genuine, that we all make changes, and that if you are embracing circularity, if you're bringing that into your company, if you're figuring out how to be a better supply chain, link in the supply chain, all of these things are really important for how we as a whole society figure out how to live regenerative on this planet. And so if you're interested, as I said, we have lots of different sustainability classes online that you can take. And I want to leave you with this idea that whilst I know I covered a lot of content really fast, there's a lot of opportunity to make change. There's a lot of rethinking, redoing, redesigning, re-engaging, and ultimately finding the opportunities in these problems that we face, learning that we live on a beautiful planet and that the future is defined by our actions today, and whatever we can do to help make sure that the future is beautiful and bright and full of butterflies. This is what we are trying to do with sustainability, to make a future that works better for all of us. So thank you so much for having me. I hope you enjoyed my whirlwind presentation. I look forward to meeting you all in the future when this event perhaps could be in person again. But in the meantime, take care, make change, and remember, we all have the potential to be a positive force for good on this beautiful planet. So thank you.